Oh, you are going to want to watch this. Yesterday, a purported statement from Justin Baldoni's longtime publicist, Jennifer Abel, was making the rounds. But I could not confirm its authenticity. Her statement was reportedly shared on this private group on social media for PR professionals. Well, I have just confirmed this was real. She really uploaded this herself. It's true. And she makes some damning allegations against Blake Lively. One of the critical pieces of her complaint against Justin Baldoni is that he broke a side letter which they agreed to during production of It Ends With Us. After she repeatedly was rebuffed with her HR complaints, she threatened to not continue filming after the writer's strike was over unless Baldoni and his production company agreed to a list of requirements. No more talking about this, no more that, no more the other. And very importantly, he had to agree to this side letter not to retaliate against Blake Lively for seeking a safer work environment. In her complaint, Blake Lively's lawyers include emails and text messages and information that shows that Blake Lively, his crisis PR expert, and his longtime publicist did engage in a campaign of retaliation, she claims. But now Jennifer Abel is denying that and adding more. She says, quote, "Hi, I never thought the day would come when I needed to defend myself with my own peers. But this certainly has been an interesting and devastating, quite frankly, couple of days. So here we are. But here are the facts. No, I was never subpoenaed. I found out my private text messages and emails were included in the complaint after I received it on Friday night. And then the New York Times contacted me 1.5 hours after receipt." Obviously, the New York Times was working with Blake Lively's team. She gave them an exclusive statement, and they were the first to report in depth everything about the complaint. His longtime publicist, Jen Abel, says they had already reviewed the 80-page document and had questions prepared, and apparently also received thousands of pages of documents with our correspondence that we never saw. So it was clear this was a coordinated effort, but nothing we haven't seen before since I've been working in talent PR for over 15 years now. I had recently left my previous firm, at which I was still with during this campaign, with a team who all participated in the campaign and a boss who oversaw, and who had access to my work emails and work phone. So you can deduce from that what you will. Translation: her former employer handed over all of her private communications, including text messages, because the boss, the other PR agency, had given her a work phone. And speaking of those text messages, his longtime publicist says what the cherry-picked messages don't include, although not shockingly, as it doesn't fit the narrative, is that there was no smear implemented. No negative press was ever facilitated. No social combat plan, although we were prepared for it, as it's our job to be ready for any scenario, but we didn't have to implement anything because the internet was doing the work for us. Sure, we talked about it, contemplated if we needed certain things, flagged accounts that we needed to monitor, worked with a social team to help us stay on top of the narrative so we could act quickly if needed. And yes, we rejoiced and joked in the fact that fans were recognizing our clients' heart and work without us having to do anything, but keep our heads down and focus on positive interviews for our client. As the texts show, we sophomorically reveled and again joked privately to each other about the internet's feedback to the woman whose team was making our lives incredibly difficult over the course of the campaign. We know what you mean by that. I'm human, continues Jen Abel. The long hours, months of preparation, on top of my day-to-day scope, it felt good to see that although we were prepared, we didn't have to do anything over the top to protect our client. Incredibly difficult, you say? In what way? Funny you should ask. I was notified at the start of the campaign that the opposing team had been planting horrible stories about my client as a fail-safe if my client did not comply with the demands set forth for the campaign. Which is why we brought on Crisis, as it's not something that I do. My sole job was to put together interviews, screening opportunities, and speaking opportunities for my client in support of the film, a standard scope of work. I did my job. Now, what kind of woman would work against another woman who was a victim of all the things being claimed? Thanks for asking. After reviewing the evidence, facts, hard proof that countered every single thing that was being claimed and demanded at the start of production, I made a choice to stand by my client of almost 5 years, who had dedicated his life to the equal treatment of others, especially women, who had no incidents of negative treatment of others, and who had a wonderful community and team at Wayfarer who all held the same moral fortitude and lived their life accordingly. As representatives, we all have to make that choice. So I did that to the best of my ability and felt good about our efforts. Is my client perfect? No. In fact, he says that he's not perfect so constantly to the point I tell him he needs to be less self-deprecating because it could be taken the wrong way. Are Blake's feelings valid? It's not my position to say or speculate what she was feeling in these moments that she claims, and I would never slam a woman for speaking her truth. But at the end of the day, if it's not the truth, and there is evidence that proves otherwise, then as a representative, I have to do what I feel is right. Oh my. If everything she alleges in her complaint is not true, seems to me like Justin Baldoni has a very strong case for defamation. But if what she does say is true, but interesting, his publicist says, like his lawyer has said, that what is being alleged in the complaint is not true. It's pretty bonkers. What do you make of this from his publicist? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section.